Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Mindset Bloomcast with Mallory. I'm your host, Mallory McGary, and I am the CEO and founder of Beautifully Blooming. This is the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio, TV, and podcast, the #1 internet talk radio. So I am Mallory McGary. Like I said, you can find me at www.beautifullyblooming.com, or you can email me at mallory@beautifullyblooming.com. So today we're going to just dive right into our topic of the week, which is transparency. Sorry, it's kind of, sometimes I get the word confused a little bit because there's so many that go along with it, but transparency versus authenticity. And this is something that I think, as I kind of went through January, I feel like January to me was like 7 years long. The last week of January felt like it was the longest. And I kind of took the time to reflect upon what that month looked like. And what I found was that I kind of got caught up as a business owner and as a mom and just a woman in general, just trying to find a happy medium of how much of my life to share, how much of what everybody wants to see, and how much it really impacts me versus all of my clients, my listeners, my people that follow me on Instagram, just my audience in general. So I dove into it a little bit, and it kind of led down another part of another path as well, which we're going to touch on a little bit later in the show. But first, we're going to talk about being transparent and transparency. And according to the dictionary, this is dictionary.com, so it wasn't like Merriam-Webster or anything like that, but it states that transparency is the quality or state of being transparent. So transparency to me is just being just real life. Like for all of you watching on YouTube, or watching this replay on Facebook, or watching it on Facebook Live, you see behind me, I've got my work calendar. I have toys on a cabinet behind me. I have books, kind of random toys that aren't being played with at the moment. But that to me is being transparent. You're seeing that I am a normal functioning human. I am a mom, so I have toys everywhere. I am trying to do business and work from home. So this is also my home office. And my life overlaps in what that looks like. Is sometimes mom and an entrepreneur and a business owner go hand in hand. And to have that just be part of what you see of me, you see that. And if you're at home working from home, your office might look the same. You might have the ability to kind of close it off, or make that break in what your schedule and your day looks like. For some of us, it just kind of all had to blend together really fast for the last 2 years. And pending your company rules, or you're an entrepreneur yourself and what that looks like, it has to blend in some way. So that's part of being transparent. It's being open, it's being frank, having a real conversation, which I have with you every other week. These are my thoughts, my things I feel like need to be put out in the world, and things that are important for everybody to hear. So this is me being frank and open and having this open conversation. Part of this open conversation and being transparent is asking for your feedback, which, if you have feedback or you have something you want to learn about or kind of delve deeper into, email me at mallory@beautifullyblooming.com, and I'm happy to get to those and build shows around that. So, and you could also find the contact form at beautifullyblooming.com. So let's start this two-way communication. Let's be transparent together. Let's have open and frank conversations of things that maybe seem that you just can't feel like you can talk to other people about it. Now, part of transparency leads into authenticity, and it's what allows us to be the person that we are. So According to dictionary.com, again, being authentic is being not false or copied. You're being genuine, you're being real, you're representing one's true nature or beliefs. You're true to yourself or to the person that you want to be. So you're continually keeping that same, you're stepping into yourself and allowing that to be out in the world. So I'm going to kind of back into this a little bit with a personal story. Um, this is a story I think I share, but probably not a whole lot. And so this might be, hopefully you can relate, but I know that going through high school and middle school and high school were probably the hardest school periods of my life. Kids weren't the nicest to me in junior high. So those are the things that kind of lead into high school and extend beyond that. There are some that I still kind of catch myself traps falling into occasionally of what that looks like. But it started to make me really hide the things that really made me who I am. It made me hide what I was passionate about, how I really felt about something, hold back my emotions, and not allow myself to be the person that I am. But through just different experiences and over time and separating from different friend groups or just different situations in general, it kind of felt like pieces of me were coming back rather than feeling like I had to stuff them down. It felt that in different situations, I would kind of become a chameleon a little bit of trying to fit in with this group and trying to fit in with this group. And I could do it really well. Sadly, I shouldn't want to say that I could. Now I don't want to say that I am that because I've come so far. But at that moment in my life, that's the way that I felt like I fit in. And I know kind of in the world and society, that's something that we all search for, no matter what age you're at. You want to be able to fit in. You want to have those friends. You want to be seen. And it's easier sometimes depending on situations, but it's easier to push down things about yourself that wouldn't match what your group, I put that in air quotes, of people you're trying to fit in with. So something that I've done over time when I graduated from high school and moved on in my life, I started a career and kind of separated myself a lot from people I knew in high school. And so it kind of allowed me to get those little bits and pieces back to who I really am. And then about 25-ish, I kind of took a really hard left in life. Um, I was on a path going really far. I had good potential on that path. If I would have just stuck to it, I probably would have been in a different spot in my life, but it looked too hard and something that I felt like people didn't want to see me as. And that wouldn't allow me to fit in with people anymore. So I took a hard left and went down a different path, thinking that it was a great path to be on, that I was going to get so much more done. I was going to get so much further ahead. I was going to make this amazing transformation. And instead, it actually did the opposite. It transformed me back into kind of what I define as I've looked back on it in my life, kind of a shell of a person a little bit, of the fact that I didn't have or know who I wanted to be anymore or who I was and what made me me. I just kind of, again, chameleoned into trying to make the best of a crappy situation. And it didn't turn out well. it was in that time frame, it was along about a year of trying to come to peace with the fact that I wasn't the person that I had set out to become, and the person I was on path A that would have led me down a stronger path, and I would have been a completely different person than I was on path B, which was the hard left. So then traveling down path B, kind of waking up and realizing I was becoming this shell of a person, that I then took a really hard right and veered back to try and get back to path A. And which allowed me to be my authentic self and allowed me to step into those things that I really love, that really make me a genuine person, and things that make me real. So for going forward from that point, that jumping point, then I was able to step into, I'm a very inquisitive person by nature. So it allowed me to open my creativity by being curious again about the world and the people that surround me and their reasonings for sticking with me or wanting to be by my side and kind of like be my tribe, I guess, or my group, my support community, and that would lead me forward and kind of pull me back into this person that they knew I was, and again going for that fuller potential going forward. So what is real to you? What is something that is your true belief? What is at the core of your humanness? Everybody has something different that is kind of it's the one thing that's steady in your life, that is always there, whether you want it to be or not. It's going to be your guiding force. So for some people, that's spirituality. Other people, it could be just a like strong conviction to a certain thing, or that drive and motivation. Whatever it is, that core that keeps you going forward, that is your true and one true self. And everything that revolves around that everything around that is built upon by that core staple in your life. So whatever that looks like, define what that is for you. And I know that it's mentioned everywhere that 2 years have been just felt kind of like they went to the wind, and nobody really knows maybe what they want anymore, because there's been so much change, or who they are anymore, because maybe your career path has changed, maybe your job situation has changed, or you just don't fall in love with whatever it is that you're doing, that you need something else. So really dig into yourself. Right now is kind of what I'm calling a reset, as January has ended and kind of coming off of resolutions that maybe have felt out of reach, that we went through 2 weeks ago about the Quitter's Day. Maybe it's just they're just not there. So kind of reset, but ground it from yourself up, rather than going for all of this out here and then grounding back into yourself, because that's not in alignment, and it will seem a lot harder to complete by being out of alignment with yourself. So start from the ground up. And I'm going to challenge you to find what it is that your true self is. What are the things that are real to you, that you're curious about in the world? What does your true nature look like? Are you an extrovert? Are you an introvert? Are you an extroverted introvert or an introverted extrovert? Whatever that looks like. What is your true nature? Where do you feel the most comfortable? What really resonates with your soul? Find that authentic self, because that's going to give you the springboard to move forward and allow for that transparency to not feel like like somebody's honing in on you with binoculars, kind of like somebody's watching you. Um, and you feel, I'm relating it to a house, so that when all of my shutters are open and the light streaming through, that people can see in my windows, I can see out my windows. So that's kind of a transparent, what transparency looks like for an analogy. And then when they're closed, nobody can see in, you can't see out. And then there's like that middle ground of you can kind of see in, kind of see out, depending on how you draw your shades. But that's kind of the way that I view transparency, mixing with authenticity a little bit, is how, as a person, as yourself, how open are those windows to your house, to your soul, to what your life is. And being allowing yourself to step into your authenticity will make your transparency just kind of whatever. Like, I'm okay with everything that's happening in my life. I'm okay with if you see the mess, because you're seeing it. If you're watching this, you're seeing the mess behind me. I'm not trying to hide it. I'm a real human. So I want you to feel comfortable in, like, we're sitting together in my office or my house and having just a normal conversation. I don't want it to feel like my office is stark and white and it has really placed pictures and all of that, because I want to be relatable to you as well. So there's my authenticity, and stepping into that has allowed me to be more genuine and really shine in my personality and the things that make me who I am, as opposed to trying to chameleon myself into where I want to fit. There are some places I know that I don't fit, and that's okay. There are other places I know that I fit, and that's great. There are some that are kind of a little bit in between. Sometimes I fit and sometimes I don't. It's okay. I have been able to, by doing my mindset work and getting to this point where I'm comfortable in my life and in my authentic self, and I'm still stepping into pieces of what that is, but I've gotten to a point that I'm not, for another analogy, because I like analogies because I am a visual learner, but I think of myself as being the rolled out sugar cookie dough, and the cookie cutter is going onto the cookie cutter dough, so it actually makes the shape, rather than taking the ball of cookie dough and trying to shove it into the cookie cutter. Being able to actually have it's easier to roll out the cookie dough and put the cookie cutter on it versus putting the cookie dough into the cookie cutter. And that's kind of how I feel what my life has become. I was the cookie dough trying to fit into different cookie cutters, and it never worked. Whereas now, fast forward about 5-6 years, that the cookie cutter is now trying to fit to me, and which is awesome and great in where I'm at, and is only going to get better as I allow myself to explore different assets and facets of my personality, and truly holding on to those and stepping into that authenticity. Sorry. Going forward, we're going to break here in just a second for our awesome commercials, but going for the rest of the comeback for the rest of the episode, because we're going to talk about vulnerability and comparison. So again, you're listening to the Mindset Bloomcast with Mallory. I'm your host, Mallory McGary, the CEO and founder of Beautifully Blooming, and I'm a mindset coach. And you are listening to the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcasts, the #1 internet talk network. We'll see you in just a little bit.
black and white, well, I wouldn't mind, no, I would not cry, 'cause you are the rainbow in my sky. If the seas took us all away, well, I wouldn't mind, no, I would not break if you are the ship sailing.
Hello and welcome back to the Mindset Bloomcast with Mallory. We are talking today about transparency versus authenticity, and we are jumping kind of back before we go forward into another topic that kind of goes hand in hand with both of those. So to recap what we talked about a little bit, transparency is just the state of being transparent and being open and frank, whatever that looks like for you. And then being authentic is not being false or copied, being real and being genuine. So as people, we kind of have developed this sense of being authentic is hard just because we want to fit in. Being transparent is also hard because we don't want people to see our mess. I put that in air quotes. But then that jumped into a whole nother topic that I think goes hand in hand with these as well, and that is vulnerability and being vulnerable, because transparency can kind of sometimes be confused with what vulnerability is. And so vulnerability, according to the dictionary, just because I want it to be a real definition and then my own personal interpretation of it. The definition is the willingness to show emotion or to allow one's weaknesses to be seen or known. And that, when I was reading that definition, it kind of struck my little heart chords a little bit in saying that that's hard. That's very hard. And I've asked a couple of people just as I was preparing for the show what they thought it meant and why being vulnerable is hard. And it is exactly that. We don't want people to see that we're weak. Somewhere along in society, we have learned that showing our weakness or showing any sort of weakness or emotion isn't a positive moving forward emotion is not okay. That to have those displayed or put out, people will see you as, well, we feel like people will see us as less than we are, less of that business owner, go-getter, employee, whatever that looks like in your space, that you're just less than, and that you can't do something because you have this type of emotion. And so to combat that at times, I feel like as in society, and I am guilty of this, so it's taken a lot of reflection on my part as well after preparing for this show. But so that we don't show that we're weak or have those weaknesses, we say yes to anything and everything, from parenthood to an employee to a community standpoint. Maybe you're in a church group, whatever that looks like. If somebody asks you to do something, you're going to say yes, whether it's something that serves you, whether you do or do not have the bandwidth for personally. we kind of just say yes to be like, yes, we are these people. I can do that. I can do that. I can totally take that on. It's not a big deal. Part of that also comes with the fear of if you say no, then they're going to go to somebody else and that person's going to drop the ball. And from my experience, and this is my interpretation, but if that person drops the ball, it's a reflection of me because I said no. When in actuality, it's not. It doesn't have any reflection. Somebody else being asked for a task because I just didn't have the bandwidth or I didn't have the time or what that looks or just didn't serve me. And I said no. And that other person drops the ball has no reflection on me at all. I didn't touch it, so it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the person that dropped the ball, which is something that I've had to learn over the last couple of years, is that somebody else taking on, either when you delegate something or you just have to say no to it because you really are 100% tapped out, that if somebody else handles that and it falls or part of it just doesn't get done, or it's not done in an efficient manner or time frame, whatever that is, it has no reflection on the person that I am and the work that I do and the person that they have come to know. And as an employee or anything like that. So that's something that has been a good learning lesson. And as I've wrapped my mind around that, it has allowed me to move forward in a better mindset and space, because I'm no longer worrying about things that aren't in my control at all. I am a worrier by nature. That is a weakness and a strength at some points. But I would worry about things that had no impact or whatsoever on my life. Occasionally I still do, so it's a work in progress. But I would go through these random scenarios of how I was going to fix like world hunger, and I could never get to a good solution. But it was something I constantly worried about, and it was my weakness, but I never could do anything about it. So I felt like I was kind of failing people who don't even know that I was thinking about this problem, right? But then at other points, as a parent, there are nights that I've sat and as my kids have gone to bed and thought I am totally failing them as a mom because I didn't take the 20 minutes to do maybe and read an extra book, that we just didn't have time for that or anything like that, or plan for that, and that I was failing their learning. And I'm not. It's okay. And those are some of the weaknesses that I've had going through the last couple of years, and being that, okay, I'm working on this and I've worked on it to a point that I know, okay, if 20 minutes here is not going to affect an overall timing, and we can make it up somewhere else. It's not going to be, or do something else that does more than that, do a different activity that does more than what I was planning on. And so part of that being vulnerable and showing your weaknesses shows that you're a real human. There are things, look at your plate right now, things that are on your plate. How many of those actually serve you? How many of those are actually things that you want to do and you're excited to do? And they're tasks that are like build you up and fill up your cup. How many of those are I have to's? Those are your checklist items that are I just have to make it. Maybe it's a work checklist. Maybe you have a home checklist. Maybe you have both of things you have to get done at your house or things you have to get done at work, whatever that looks like. And then how many of those are just people have asked you and you don't want to say no, so you say yes, right? Whatever that looks like. Look at your plate. What are things that you can eliminate and that don't serve you, that aren't good for, maybe they're not good for your mental health, which can be a thing. Maybe it's not good for your physical health. Maybe it's not good for your emotional health. Whatever that looks like. start to kind of whittle those down. We all have a lot on our plates already. Just to keep piling it on for no reason and for the fear of somebody looking at you and being like, oh, you're less because you can't take on this task. You're not less. You're doing something that is actually really good for you. You're being able to say no to things that you don't have the bandwidth for, you don't have the passion for, you don't have the time to even complete, or that just don't serve you at all. And that's okay. Saying no is okay for that. So in being vulnerable, I'm going to share another little story that will lead into my next topic, which is comparison, which something I have found has gone really big over the last little bit. Last couple of years, maybe have taken a moment off with COVID being a thing, but it's still there somewhat. So I am one that likes people to see the facade of that life is fine. I'm okay. I'm a good, everything's totally fine. I'm a strong person. I can hold everything all together. And for most of the time, that's actually true. I can hold a lot on my plate and feel okay and balance it. I'm balancing still work in progress, but I can balance pretty well. But there are times that it is not all there, that it is not all put together. I have zero bandwidth. I have zero emotional or mental capacity or capability to take on one more thing. There have been nights that I have gone and locked myself somewhere that nobody can see me, so nobody knows that I'm crying, for fear of them seeing that vulnerable side of me and fear of them seeing that I'm a weak person. And there are times where it gets to be too much, but I'm also afraid to say no because of that same fear of I can't take on something else and balance something else, then I'm not the person that they have imagined or have built up in their mind. And I have set some bar, I don't know what bar, but in my own mind, I think I've set this bar and standard that I have to meet all the time. And I have set that expectation for what people can expect from me, that even taking one step down or one dip a little bit will just tip that whole everything I feel like I've worked for over, when in actuality, it's not that way at all. It's okay to step back and regroup and move into something else, and to knock things off your plate as that just don't serve you. And if you really don't have time, it's part of being authentic, is just saying, nope, that I don't have the bandwidth for that, or that's just something that doesn't interest me, or how can I make this kind of fit into the person that I am? Whatever that looks like. But being vulnerable enough to say no is a really good stepping stone for anyone to move forward, in that we don't have to take it all on at once. I know as a mom and a business owner, that at times I have felt like by choosing one or the other, I'm failing in some other area of my life. So following a business and career and entrepreneurship versus being a mom and a wife, and what that kind of, for lack of better terminology, but kind of that June Cleaver type of feeling, rather than the go-getter warrior type woman that is a career-driven, passion-oriented person. That choosing one or the other, I'm failing the other part, because in my authentic self and my makeup, that both are blended together. That's why my kids are a part of my business. If you look at my website or follow me on social media, you're going to see my family, you're going to see my kids. They're part of my business. They're a part of why I started my business. They're a part of my story. And that is in my brain, they go hand in hand. So choosing sometimes can feel a little overwhelming. And especially when you have two sides of that coin, you have things you need to get done for your work life, and then things that you need to do at your home life. And those tasks are really overwhelming. And especially if you have deadlines here or there, it all can become overwhelming. And as I've talked with other clients of mine, I know this has been something that has been a frequent in their space as well, of having, you have all of these to-dos here and you have all of these to-dos at home. And to balance the two, you're just kind of burning the candle at both ends, and burning and just not really succeeding in one area because you're just trying to hold the glue together of the base. And so when I look at that and that plate, so going back to that, when I look at my plate, some of those things of, okay, I don't have to have, I don't have to mop my floor every day. I don't, just so you know, me being real and transparent, I don't mop my floor every day. I do mop it once a week, and that's all I can give to it. If I focus too much on trying to get it done all the time, I would be mopping my floor all day long. Also, with the toddler running around and all that goes on with the toddler, I would be mopping my floor all day long. So I've had to kind of learn to compartmentalize and give and take of what that looks like. I can't clean my entire house every day, but I can clean a room a day, and that's fine. And that's what I do. Instead of cleaning my entire house at once, I have a day where, like, Mondays is the bathrooms, and Tuesday is laundry day, and Wednesday is my kitchen, and Thursday is bedrooms, and Friday is just like a spot clean, kind of like just the vacuum refresh. And then the weekend comes and I actually enjoy the weekend because I'm not worried about cleaning my entire house, type of thing. So being able to kind of compartmentalize and maybe shift some of those priorities or things that are have tos in your life that feel like they have to be done that day, shifting them to going back a couple of episodes, shifting them to your negotiable to-do list rather than your non-negotiable to-do list, you're going to feel a lot happier because you're not going to have that weight and that stress sitting on you. So with that, jumping into comparison, because I feel like that is a weight that sits on some of us as well. Going through the Instagram feed or Facebook or TikTok or anything like that, you see things like, oh, they have such a clean house and my house is a mess, or they have this kind of car and I drive this kind of car. Not even on social media, you can walk out your front door and see your neighbors and think, oh, well, they've got X, Y, and Z, and I only have this, or I need to be like the neighbor 4 doors down. Whatever that looks like, we're seeing kind of their highlight reel of their life. And I know that in our minds, we know that social media is kind of that highlight reel. Nobody really posts that they had a fight with a family member or their partner or a friend. They're not really posting that type of thing. They're not posting things that are maybe feel a little more down. It's always the ups that you're seeing. And so, but also when you look at those, you're here at point A, and what you're seeing could be somebody's point D, but you're comparing that to where you're at, and you feel like you're never going to get there. And so all it does is kind of start this spiral, this downward spiral of feeling that you're never going to be good enough. You're never going to achieve your goals because somebody else has already done it, or somebody else has already jumped that much farther ahead and you're never going to make it, or you have a friend that is doing all of these things and you can only do so many and it's never going to be comparable. And so you're failing as a person, which is not true. You're doing the best that you can. And where you're at, we're always growing through what we're going through. But you can't take where you're at and compare it to somebody's best. You can't compare your worst to their best because it's never going to be the same. You've got to compare worst to worst if you're going to compare, because that's comparing best to worst is like comparing a banana to an orange. There's nothing there, as opposed to that apple and apple comparison at the same kind of the same level. So with that, going into that, if I starting my business was a huge leap of faith for me. I knew it was something I was called to do, that it was something that I wanted to do, sharing my experience with the world and helping other people feel okay in being themselves and being unapologetically who they are, is something that really struck a chord with me and that needed to be shared with the world, that we're kind of all hiding behind things. And starting my business, if I looked at all the other amazing coaches there are out there, from a life coach to a health coach to mindset coaches to any type of coach that's out there, I would probably have never started my business. And being vulnerable enough to share that with you and to be authentic enough in saying that I'm okay with that, but I started anyway. And to my corner of the internet and the interwebs is anybody is welcome, because I want everybody to show up in the world exactly who they are, because we're all better for it. So quick recap of the show this week. Being transparent, don't allow that facade to show up. Be that house that has the windows open and just allow life to happen, whatever that looks like. Being authentic, just be real, be genuine, share your true self, stand in that core belief that you are and move forward from that. Be vulnerable, be willing to share that you have weaknesses. We all do. I do. I'm still working on a lot of them. It's a work in progress. Be strong enough to be weak enough. That's kind of my mantra with that sometimes. And then don't compare. There's no point. Everybody's meant to be different. Everybody has a different part in life, and you never know where somebody's at. So just be happy for them wherever they are. So thank you for watching the show this week, or joining or listening. You are listening to the Mindset Bloomcast with Mallory. You can find me at Mallory. You can email me at mallory@beautifully-blooming.com for any feedback, questions, show topics, or anything like that. Also, you can find me at www.beautifullyblooming.com. You are listening to the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcast, the #1 internet talk network. We are so glad to have you here, and I will see you later. Have a great week.